So we've talked about the revitalization of urban ruins, and we've talked about assisted decay, acceleration of ruination through processes like chemics activities at the chemical factory. But there are other biographies to urban ruins as well, other afterlives of Armenia's Soviet factories. For example, in some cases, owners try to resist decay. They try to slow down the process of ruination, not necessarily to revitalize. One example of this is the Ijevan rug factory in the city of Ijevan. This is a remarkable factory. It was established in the 1960s and quickly grew to become one of the largest rug factories in the Soviet Union. It was the largest rug factory in the South Caucasus. Here too, soon after privatization, the factory fell into ruin and discontinued production, discontinued operation. But unlike the chemical factories and unlike the electrotechnical factory in Yerevan, in this case, the owner has tried to keep the factory intact. He has not stripped equipment. He has not destroyed buildings to strip metal. You don't see the evidence of large-scale theft and plunder, of large-scale stripping that you see in many of Armenia's Soviet factories. Instead, the factory almost seems like a museum, with machines still in place, undisturbed, and even it seems as though they could be turned on again at any moment. And what these owners have tried to do is, in fact, to slow down the pace of ruination. The biggest challenge they face are plants, or what archaeologists call botanical colonization, because despite their best efforts, plants are encroaching into the factory through cracks in windows and other crevices, and they are reclaiming this industrial space for a new post-industrial ecology. Raspberry bushes, walnut trees, and many other kinds of plants are growing in the interior and surrounding areas of this factory. What we see in these contexts is that urban ruination, industrial ruination, is a struggle. We can think of it as a trial, a contest between human and non-human forces who are determining what the future ecologies and landscapes of these factories will be. There are other possibilities for afterlives of industrial ruins, and some of these have not yet been explored in Armenia. One question that these sorts of sites ask us to consider is, are industrial ruins part of Armenia's heritage? Should they be considered part of Armenia's heritage? This is a difficult question because normally we don't think of industrial ruins as heritage. Why? Well, for one thing, they're not old enough. Usually we think that heritage sites need to have a deep past and a deep history, while modern sites are still in formation. They're not yet fixed. They're not yet fossilized. Their ruination is not yet complete. Another reason, though, why perhaps we have a hard time thinking of industrial ruins as heritage is because they're made of the wrong stuff. They're made of concrete and steel and iron instead of stone and mud brick. They don't have the aura of ruins or the aura of the past, the deep past that we associate with ruins. Another reason why perhaps we have a hard time thinking of industrial sites as heritage is because they can be disturbing places. They're unsettling places. They're sometimes dark places. They sometimes remind us of pages of the past or periods of the recent past that we'd rather not remember or that we'd rather not think about. And yet another reason why perhaps we don't think of industrial ruins as heritage is because they're not national sites. They're not distinctly ethnically Armenian. Industrial ruins exist all over the world, and there's not that huge of a difference between them. It's a common condition of the late modern reality. And so perhaps we have a hard time thinking of heritage, of sites that are not distinctly national or distinctly associated with a particular ethnic community. Nevertheless, in many parts of the world, we have begun to see a movement towards recognizing 20th century industrial sites as part of humanity's heritage. And this takes several different forms. In the Ruhr region of Germany, for example, there's a very famous site called Duisburg Nord, where architects and preservationists have selectively preserved, in the traditional sense, some parts of the site, but in other areas, they are allowing it to continue to decay. One scholar calls this curated decay, allowing industrial sites to continue on the path toward ruination and not try to halt it, not necessarily try to curate it and stop it. This is a kind of managed decay, or as I said, curated decay, allowing that parts of the industrial past should continue to follow their natural inclination and propensity toward decline, but also incorporating them as public spaces where people can come and experience, reflect on, and consider their relationship to the modern industrial past.